Francisco, it's Rex Broadcasting Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
Okay, how's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours here on our Wrestling Observer Live. We've got Bryan Alvarez, who will be here for the whole 2 hours. And we're going to also have Bruce Mitchell, Pro Wrestling Torch, up in about 20 minutes or so, talking about all of the latest wrestling news. Every single line is lit up, so we'll give the phone number after we go through some phone calls. We will be talking about anything you guys want to talk about when it comes to pro wrestling or mixed martial arts tonight for the next 2 hours. Bryan, how are you tonight?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Good.
I actually started eating Wednesday, and today's the first day that I have not overeaten.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It was great.
Yeah. Eat bad or good?
Horrible.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I eat good, so whatever. It's been an interesting week in wrestling. I guess the first thing I want to bring up is Bob Holly.
Yeah.
Bob Holly and Rene Dupree. If you watch, as much as what happened last week, which we talked about on the show last week, was stupid, okay? The one thing, actually, I don't know if we talked about it last week, but the one thing about it that was even worse is on TV Tuesday, Rene Dupree goes out there for his match with Rey Mysterio, and he's got a cut on the bridge of his nose, and his eye looks like just a disaster area. And every now and then, like once a month or so, something is handed to the WWE. And granted, this is not like the biggest angle in the world. It's not even a big angle. It's just one of those little things that, stuff happens in pro wrestling. I've been watching it forever. When somebody gets hurt in wrestling, or somebody's marked up in wrestling, the obvious thing you do is you go, hey, look at what happened, and you blame it on somebody that the guy's doing a program with, or you blame it on somebody that you're going to have him do a program with. He was sucker punched by this guy, and it's a good way to have a feud. Look at my eye, look what you've done, blah, blah, blah. Very, stuff that you probably learn the first day when you write wrestling, if there was such school for it. And so I'm watching the show, and he comes out with that eye, and they say, the dog bit him. I'm just listening to that, I'm going like...
Well, he's going to do a program with the dog.
Yeah,
the dog got that big article in his hometown paper.
That's true. That's true. That was the most famous stuff. I just couldn't believe it. But you know what? The funny thing is I really could believe it because it's par for the course.
Yes.
But we'll talk more about Bob Holly, and we'll talk more about Triple H. The whole world is against Triple H tomorrow night on Raw. The whole battle royal and he's got to beat everyone to win the championship. But luckily, Ric Flair will be back in the ring to help him along with Big Dave. And we can talk about TNA, which is 1 week away from its second Sunday pay-per-view, as well as New Year's Eve and a bunch of other stuff. Listen to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of Wrestling Observer Newsletter with Bryan Alvarez. Figure 4 Weekly. We're here every Sunday night from 8 to 10 Eastern, 5 to 7 Pacific Time here on the Sports Byline Radio Network, Channel 122, Sirius Satellite Radio. Okay, Bryan, any justification for Bob Holly whatsoever?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so either.
I do have to say this, though, that the funniest thing is, actually, it's not so much now, but it was more a year ago. It's like this, it's night and day between Ohio Valley and WWE as far as WWE getting handed something and just dropping the ball. And Ohio Valley was handed the most horrible things possible last year and turned them all into something. And it was incredible. And it's very sad.
Yeah, I
do enjoy watching Ohio Valley, so I can't say it's too sad.
Yeah, but it is because nobody sees Ohio Valley.
Oh, yeah, but see, I don't know. It's so beyond hope now that I watch all these guys in Ohio Valley, and I used to wait for them to go to Raw, and I was excited to see them called up. And now I pray that nobody gets called up. Because I love watching them all there, and I love...
Hey, how did you like seeing Melina as a face in the crowd on Monday night?
That saddened me greatly, because I knew that meant they were breaking the three of them up.
Oh, my God. I saw that, and it's just like, oh, not again.
In fact, I didn't even recognize her at first, because she didn't have, this giant, goofy hat on.
Yeah.
And then I heard the name Melina, and I went, oh, damn. So upset. Yeah,
on Ohio Valley, Melina Perez and Johnny Nitro and Joey Matthews, they make up this...
The greatest team in the whole country.
They are so funny. And it's like this act, from the ring entrance is great. The wrestling is great. The interviews are...
The ring attire.
The ring attire, the entrance attire, the interviews, I mean, the interviews aren't great, but the facials when they do the interviews are great.
Yes. Lines they're given are great.
Well, that ain't going to happen when they move up.
No.
And then, like, you know, but the whole thing is that anyone with Clue 1 watching this has got to go. The first thing that you would watch, if you watched 1 hour of OVW in the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks even, maybe 6 weeks, you would go, you cannot break those 3 up. They should come in. They should come in. They should be on Raw. They should have La Resistance's spot with Eugene and William Regal, and there you go.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's obvious. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to come up with this stuff. And then there's Melina facing the crowd. I mean, what is this thing with these women as faces in the crowd? I mean, you have it on SmackDown, too. You got all these women. Guaranteed none of them can get over when you throw so many out. And they all started at the same time.
Yep.
What is this?
Plus, I think we were talking about last week with you just debuted 3 women from this voting contest on the same show where you're asking fans to vote for a winner.
Yeah.
You're basically telling them it doesn't matter who you vote for because, you know, they're all going to get a job for the most part.
I don't know that all these guys are going to get a job.
Well, I would be surprised, really. Except for the guys that just have zero hope. I think they'll all end up with something.
I mean, I think most of them are going to end up with developmental, but I don't
think of it. When you watched the Diva Search, did you really think that they were all going to end up with a job?
No, I didn't. But I did think that a lot of them would.
Yeah.
That got cut. But the thing is that their standards for women are much lower than standards for guys because guys have to be able, guys have to be able to wrestle, and the women just have to be good looking.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't even have to be able to act.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. So any nice looking woman. Has the potential to be a WWE diva. I mean, you can be an airhead. We've got plenty of them. You can be a horrible actress. We certainly have plenty of them. As long as you're, really nice looking. Whereas for a guy to be a wrestler, I mean, you've got to have a little bit of charisma. And you have to be able to wrestle. And I just think it's much harder. And you can't do that with 1 week of training in OVW like Michelle McCool had last week or whatever week it was when she had her 1 week before she came in.
Yes.
I mean, it's a lot harder. And so that's why I don't see. Out of the 8 guys that started on this Tough Enough, I don't see like whatever it is, 2 months from now we're going to have 6 of them debut in the same week on each show.
No, but I think that they'll get deals.
Oh, I think that most of them are going to get developmental deals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's been obvious from the start. I don't want to talk about Tough Enough right now. I do want to talk about Monday Night's Raw because this coming Monday night, Triple H has all the odds stacked against him.
Yes.
A battle royal, and he's only got 2 friends.
Incredible.
I know.
Incredible booking.
I know. Well, no, it's not that incredible.
Yeah, well, no, but like this started about 6 weeks ago, really, where the heels were just getting destroyed by these outnumbered baby faces, and I was racking my brain trying to think of, okay, there's got to be some reason for this, and it turns out the reason is just that Hunter's insane. He's not insane. He's just booking for himself. No, he's completely insane because he's going to be taking over this company someday, or maybe he already has. He already has. Look at it. Yeah. But okay, if I were taking over a company that should theoretically be a multi-million-dollar, hundreds of millions of dollars that this company is supposed to make every year, I wouldn't be doing stuff this stupid. And I used to think he was the smartest man in wrestling, but now I think he's the dumbest. I don't think he's thinking as much as you are. I think he's just thinking the short term like everyone in wrestling does, and it's his way to get over and to be the big star in the company. Now's his chance to make himself into the Steve Austin that deep down, or The Rock that he deep down always wanted to be, and never. You realize that when they were really huge, they were baby faces. That's Austin and Rock when they were really. I just think that he wants to be top heel and top baby face at the same time. Interesting. Yeah. You got a better explanation? No, I don't. That was the only thing that I could think. I saw that 2 weeks ago when they were doing that crazy tag match. Oh yeah, that was great. Well, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, well, I do have to say, if you throw out the fact that it's been totally illogical, though, I think the last 2 Raws have been very entertaining. Yeah, they have been. I thought that the stuff with Triple H and Batista, I thought it made for a tremendous show. It did. And I didn't like the swerve at the end. Yeah, but okay. I didn't like it because there have been too many like that. Okay, but let me say this. I agree with you. I think the swerve at the end was counterproductive on so many levels, especially for what the audience needs right now, which is not to be swerved. Yeah. But you do have to say that
given the script, the execution was tremendous.
Oh, yes, it was. And really, to be honest, it was almost saved by the look that Big Dave gave him at the very end when Hunter threw that one little barb in about you should have won, and Batista gave him this look. That damn near saved it right there.
Yeah. But, I mean, I will say this, as far as a personal vehicle, which Raw is for Triple H, I think that it's been really good. I think that his I don't know if it's acting skills or whatever it is, he's been really, really entertaining as long as you don't look at it like, good booking for professional wrestling to turn the company around into million stars, because certainly there's been, aside from Big Dave, there's certainly nobody close there.
No.
I mean, poor Edge, who's just doing great and is just, having to pick up scraps, and poor Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
I mean, boy. Let's see what else. We're 1 week away from TNA's second pay-per-view. Okay, what's your prediction for the buy rate for the buys for the second one?
17,000.
Okay. I'm gonna say 22. Okay, how about for Armageddon?
Oh gosh, 17,000 again. No, I think that will do 175.
I was gonna say 180, so we're totally in the same ballpark on this one. Okay. You didn't see the fight last night, did you?
No.
I heard it was fight of the year, perhaps fight of the decade. That's what I heard.
Wow.
Yeah, so got to get a tape of that one. This coming Saturday night, K1 is doing a pay-per-view. You know that on the East Coast that pay-per-view starts at midnight?
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah, is that, insane? I can just imagine, since most of the country is on the Eastern time, so, what it's so funny is that people on the East Coast and people on the West Coast, and I notice with both, they have no idea that the whole world isn't them. Okay, when you have, people who live on the East Coast, they think of everything as just East Coast time, and they have the right to, because there's more people who live on the East Coast than the West Coast. But, UFC will start their pay-per-view at 7 o'clock, so, people are home on the West Coast, but they don't realize that that's 10 o'clock on the East Coast, and, most people aren't going to stay up till 1 a.m. watching a pay-per-view.
What worries me is, between all the insanity in WWE and TNA and K1 and everywhere else, there's so many insane people that I think that maybe we're insane. We're so outnumbered.
We're the minority.
Yeah, so maybe they're all right and we're crazy.
If they were, then their business would all be going up, and then I would say that we need a new line of work.
That's true.
But if we're saying that it's bad, and then their business goes up, then we're in trouble. But if we're saying that it's bad and their business goes down, we're not the insane ones.
Yeah. Hey, talk about the investors dealie, Bob.
The investors dealie, Bob. You mean as far as
conference call?
Conference call. Did you notice at the end? Did you listen to it?
I haven't listened to it yet.
Okay. At the end of the conference call, they go through the whole thing. Linda McMahon was not positive. She wasn't making excuses. She just goes, "This was a bad quarter, and we're going to do better." She didn't exactly say how they were going to do better, but she said we're going to have to do better. And then they went through the whole thing, and then it was time for, are there any questions? And there was 2 questions, and there wasn't even a thing about it's being sunny. I think once they did an August investors conference, there's 2 questions, and Phil Livingston made some remark about, the weather's
summer.
It's summer. Well, it wasn't summer. There were 2 questions, and they got out of there like the frickin' screwed Bret Hart at the Survivor Series. That's exactly what it felt like. It's like 2 questions, and I'm waiting for the next 10 or 15, because usually there's that's about how many there's going to be at one of these things. And after 2 questions, it's all of a sudden, there's no more questions. We got to go. Bye. Click. It's like, wow, that was different. Vince McMahon doubling the dividends when the profits are down, and even worse, there's a lot of money being spent that's not even on the books when it comes to those movies. That's not counting. And what else? What else were they doing? And there's a lot. There was money coming in from the WWE New York lease being bought out, which does save them a couple million a year. Anyway, we'll be back with more. We'll also have Bruce Mitchell up right after this. You listen to the Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Bryan, Alvarez, Figure 4 Weekly, and we have Bruce Mitchell, the Pro Wrestling Torch, here as well. I want to remind everyone, if you're looking for the latest in pro wrestling information, you can always go to www.wrestlingobserver.com, and there's also info on the Wrestling Observer newsletter that I put out every week, and Figure 4 that Bryan puts out every week, info on how to subscribe to the publications in this week's Observer. Pretty big one, because the whole sorted news, I guess, about TNA. It's actually a story that a lot of people have jumped on. But anyway, got the whole details of where they stand financially and where it's going. The booking changed to Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes' track record as booker, which Bruce Mitchell knows all too well, probably better than me even, because he was actually at those shows every couple of weeks, whereas I just had to watch the television. And what else? And Kareem Ibrahim Gaber attempting to make the transition from being the greatest wrestler in the world to fighting. And we should probably know his opponent in the next week or two. He's going to be on New Year's Eve. Among many crazy things on New Year's Eve, including Hoist Gracie and Aki Bono, which is going to be quite a strange match. Brian, what do you think is going to be the biggest ratings match on that night?
I don't even know the whole card yet, so I don't know.
Well, there's K1 and Pride. It looks Hoist and Aki Bono. There's Fedor and Antonio Nogueira. There's Ruan Gardner and Hidehiko Yoshida. Probably Silva. They're talking about Silva and Sakuraba 4. Kareem Gabar making his professional fighting debut. And what else?
I think if they do Sakuraba Silva, it may be that one.
There may be a death in the family.
Yes. Or other than that, maybe Hoist Akebono, but I don't know how bad Akebono's been hurt. Or the Gardner Yoshida match.
It's going to be an interesting night.
There's a lot of them on that show that might do.
Yeah, there's two big shows. I don't know if I'll ever forget last New Year's Eve, sitting there for like 5 hours between phone calls to people in Japan and internet, and it was like
three-way.
For the 3 shows and trying to finish an issue by 7 a.m. when these shows were ending at 6. I mean, that was and staying up all night. Oh God, I'm just so glad that they don't do that on a Wednesday again. Oh, that's going to be the worst. Next time New Year's Eve is on a Wednesday before this tradition ends. Bruce, how are you tonight?
Doing fine. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks very much. Happy Thanksgiving to you, too. And before we go, and also I want to make mention, Dick Ebersol was in a plane crash earlier today in Colorado. And Dick Ebersol he's a name, a lot of people, when they talk about the most important people in wrestling, they'll talk about Hulk Hogan or they'll talk about Vince McMahon, who are. But Dick Ebersol is one of those names that should be pretty high on the list that nobody ever talks about. And the reason is in 1985, pro wrestling was in the middle of a massive wrestling war. And the 2 key components in my mind in Vince McMahon ultimately winning the war, it took him several years to win the war, over the existing promotions, I'd say 3 or 4. But in getting the jump in 1985 and the crumbling of the National Wrestling Alliance, which probably would have happened anyway, but the 2 key things I thought were when Vince McMahon got for the 1 year the TBS contract, which was very, very valuable at the time, and then after he lost the TBS contract and Jim Crockett got it, the key was when Dick Ebersol and Vince McMahon formed a partnership to produce Saturday Night's Main Event, and once a month, sometimes once every other month, WWF programming was on in the Saturday Night Live time slot on NBC, which reached an audience level far, far, far beyond what pro wrestling had probably ever reached in North America, or I shouldn't say North America, but in the United States anyway, in history. And all of the most watched wrestling matches, as big as the Monday Night Wars were a couple of years ago, there were maybe 1 or 2 Monday night shows that ever reached an audience close to what the lowest rated Saturday Night Main Events did. I mean, it was just in a different stratosphere. Plus, it's NBC, it's not UPN, it's not USA Network, and it was also a time period when there were a lot fewer television stations, and that made Hulk Hogan the icon. That it made the WWF stars so much bigger than your local stars in most parts of the country. The Carolinas, where Bruce lives, I would say, was probably the exception. But in most parts of the country, it did. It spelled the end of the regional companies. And, like I said, his pulling the strings, and, of course, he's been the head of NBC Sports for years. His pulling the strings was a huge, huge part of how wrestling turned into what it has. And on the other end, in 2001, when he agreed to put the XFL on NBC, that was also a huge part, in my mind, of what wrestling turned into, because it was the period where it's never been the same. Ever since the XFL, the Midas touch that Vince McMahon had went away. The fan base, Vince McMahon had these fans, especially after he thrashed WCW and the war was was virtually over at this point. It was a couple months from being officially over. But when this was all going on, Vince McMahon, there were people that Vince McMahon's the greatest promoter in the world. He's better than, Don King and Donald Trump and all these characters, right? And the XFL exposed Vince McMahon's Achilles heel to the point where he went from being the god of all promoters to being a mainstream joke, and he's never recovered from that. And Bruce, anything you want to add as far as...
Yeah, I do. I learned something about Dick Ebersol and that once a month slot that for Saturday Night Live that they would have where they'd run a rerun and they put in WWF Wrestling, they put in Saturday Night's Main Event. Another show that was supposed to go on there, I found this out Thursday night, there was a Seinfeld special. And Jerry Seinfeld was talking about how when they came up with the conception for the show, it was supposed to be a special that was supposed to go on in the Saturday Night Main Event slot. That he didn't think that they could do an hour and a half of a comedy special that would lead up to him doing his act, and so they turned it into a 30-minute special. So I thought that was kind of an interesting little twist that I didn't realize until that moment.
I never knew that either.
Yeah, Dick Ebersol carries a lot of weight. He really, he changed the way the Olympics looked.
Not in a good way.
And not in my mind. Not in
my mind. Yeah.
The story is more than the story. The kind of sanitized story of the athlete is more than the event itself. And
also playing favorites to certain events and pretty much relegating other events to, the horrible time slots.
Right. Instead of letting, he kind of would determine the story ahead of time and then do the coverage based on what story he wanted to come across, what kind of inspirational story he wanted to have come across from the Olympics. And he's also, a very strong early guy with Saturday Night Live. In fact, he used to try to steal the credit for the conception of Saturday Night Live from Lorne Michaels. And for years and years, there was a battle between the two of them. Obviously, Lorne Michaels won. But Dick Ebersol has a lot to do with, not only wrestling culture, but the type of television we watch and pop culture in general.
And me. You know that story, don't you, Bruce?
Yeah, I think I do. Tell that story.
He was the one who got me the gig in the National, which was really the...
Oh, I did not realize that. No.
Oh, yeah. Frank DeFord called up, Dick Ebersol and says, I'm doing a paper, and I want to do a pro wrestling column. Who should I put on? And, this is the most amazing thing when you think about it, because if you think about who he was in business with and what, at that point, because we're talking this is 1989, what... Vince McMahon and Linda McMahon thought of me then. It's probably about the same as they think of me today, but at that point, and he went and told Frank DeFord there's only one person you can get, and that's Dave Meltzer. And that was my big break. I think that was my big break mainstream. Without a question it was. And
I didn't realize that Ebersol was the one.
Ebersol was the one who told Frank DeFord to call me. Absolutely. So, kind of interesting story there. And and I've never figured it out. Why he did that, because certainly, not even certainly, he knew, Ebersol subscribed to The Observer back in those days, and he certainly, there's no question that there's no one in wrestling who didn't know what Vince thought of me, and for him to break ranks to that level, I have no idea why he did it, but he did it, so I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's an interesting story.
Definitely.
Bruce, before we get to the calls, I want to ask you, asked Bryan earlier, is there any justification for Bob Holly?
Any justification for Bob Holly? If you go to the old wrestling tradition of the locker room enforcer and all that nonsense, then I guess you can make a bad justification for it. But, WWE is a publicly traded company, and in that sense, no, there's not. Just ethically, there's not either. If you have a bad employee, you need to work with them, not beat them up. This is not, I don't know what... Even in the toughest of athletics, I don't know where you do that. No, there's no justification for Bob Holly.
Bryan, if you ever run across anyone, even remotely close to that?
To Bob Holly?
Yeah.
In what fashion? To just beat people up all the time?
Oh, just someone who, took liberties with people, but picked his spots. There's a lot of wrestlers who took liberties to a degree, but this isn't really taking liberties, because this isn't like roughing somebody up or stretching them in the ring. This is different. This is, trying to put their eye out, which is pretty, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I ever did, really.
Yeah, I don't know.
Most I came with people that were stupid and hurt people left and right.
You can think of someone in the indie scene, what, Rick Link?
The indie scene here that used to be pretty well known for being a bully and doing...
Well, there's lots of bullies. I mean, like, I know a lot of bullies in wrestling for years that would, like, stretch people and out-wrestle people and kind of rub their face in the mat for a minute just to show they were boss. But there's a difference, like I said, there's a difference between that and punching somebody repeatedly in the eye, as hard as you can and trying to shut their eye. I haven't seen that very often.
Yeah, I can think of one person. But, but no, it doesn't happen all the time. I wouldn't think you couldn't have a wrestling business.
Okay, well, we're going to go ahead to a break, and we'll start taking phone calls right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly and Bruce Mitchell of the Pro Wrestling Torch. We're here for 2 hours every Sunday night from 8 to 10 Eastern, 5 to 7 Pacific Time. For those of you wanting to call in, you can call us at 1-800-878-PLAY. Now, every line is lit up, so as soon as somebody hangs up, then you can jump on at, as I said, 1-800-878-PLAY. We're going to start with Justin in Pittsburgh. Justin, what's going on?
Dude, what's happening?
Not too much.
I would like to ask you a question about wrestling.
About wrestling? Well, came to the right place, I think.
All the right show.
Yeah.
Outside of Hunter and Orton, is it kind of pointless to ask about the WrestleMania card?
The last I heard it was Angle and Undertaker, but I don't know. I don't think that anything else is that locked in stone. Kane and Gene Snitsky, I think they'll probably go to that at Rumble, but I think they'll probably try to keep that going until Mania, just as a guess. But yeah, I don't think that anything else is locked up right now. Last year at this time we pretty much knew most of the key matches, and Vince got really mad that all those matches got out, and it turned out to be the most successful show that he ever promoted because he planned ahead. Even though all the matches got out this year, none of the matches are going to get out and probably won't be nearly successful.
Well, you got to figure we'll see Mick Foley and maybe Steve Austin, and I guess maybe The Rock.
Rock, I don't know, because Rock's schedule in March is pretty tight. He may not be able to do it, but I do think you'll probably see Mick Foley and Steve Austin involved, yeah. Mick Foley would have worked with Ric Flair, but I think that one's probably not happening.
Okay. Well, so when Kurt Angle mentioned making Shawn Michaels tap at Survivor Series, there was no chance that was a tease for Mania because of the Undertaker match?
Not no chance. It's been talked about, but at this point, that's not the idea they're going with.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you know, is the idea for the Undertaker match to be the world title match, or are they going to crown?
That I don't know, but I would think they've got to get the title on Kurt Angle going into WrestleMania because they've got to get it off of Bradshaw. Everyone knows that, except for the people who haven't done it yet, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, because I was scared that if they were going to, have Cena chase until Mania, which I guess they're not going to do, that would mean like a 9-month title reign for Bradshaw.
I think they're very high on Cena, but they just put the U.S. belt on him, and I can't see them taking it off him with Jesus. I could see it going back to Carlito though, but Carlito probably won't be wrestling. Let's see. February would be No Way Out, so that would probably be the earliest they would go is February. So, then I can't see. I don't know. I just don't think that it's going to be JBL and Cena at WrestleMania. I mean, it could be, but I don't think so.
Okay. And do you think the WrestleMania name can get them as many buys as they had in 2003, or is the show in trouble?
2003. I know which one. I think, it's too early to say because I don't know how good the angle is going to be with Foley and Austin, and that's going to really determine a lot. As things stand today, though, I can't imagine they would do even as well as 2003, which was not considered a good WrestleMania. But I mean, I could see if they get a good momentum and a good angle with those guys, they could top 2003.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay, very welcome. Let's go to Mitch in Berkeley. Mitch, what's going on?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing really good.
I just wanted to see what you guys think about the current state of TNA as far as where it's at and where it's going, and really, as much as I'm in Tanae's corner and those guys, what you guys think about bringing in the old kind of WCW retread angles and crowd.
I think that they did what they think they had to do. I don't necessarily know that it's going to be for the best, but it's a thing that I think that they had to try before giving up. You know, I sense the fact that they brought in, you know, between Hall, Nash, Page, and Savage all at the same time, rather than spread them out where they would have more impact individually. To me, it was a sign that, you know, this is D-Day, and it's not a good sign. What can I say? I mean, anyone who looks at the numbers, it's, you know, it doesn't look good.
Do you think they'd have a better chance if they tried to just really push the fresh talent like Styles and the Canadians and those guys, kind of the way that, I mean, somehow ECW managed to get us over for no names, you know, even just through match quality. Even, you know, people that didn't watch it when it was on TNN, those Tajiri Super Crazy matches were amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of what got ECW over originally was Terry Funk giving the rub to all these people, and there's no Terry Funk that's in TNA, and also it's just a different period. You got to remember that when ECW started getting over as a cult thing in say 94 and 95, the production values of wrestling were a lot lower. The costs of being in wrestling were a lot lower, and even then, you know, as much as people, you know, in hindsight like to say, you know, how great ECW was, and I think in hindsight, you know, the work of Paul Heyman as Booker actually it was pretty darn great, but as a company and as a success, it really never was.
Right, absolutely. I mean,
another thing about it is ECW is able to do something new. That there was a real call, you know, for the pendulum to swing to hardcore, to more violent, to more
and more technical too.
Right.
You know, I mean, there were all sorts of things that were being done better outside of the United States at that time that nobody here was seeing, and ECW introduced those to the United States, and there is not, I mean, you know, you could have better technical wrestling now, for sure, but the thing is everyone has seen great technical wrestling. It's not new, you know, so it's not going to make the impact it did when, you know, you had Eddie Guerrero and Benoit and those guys who'd never really been seen or pushed, I mean, they'd been seen, but they'd never been pushed the right way, or you know, Sabu was, you know, who was a total phenomenon for his time. Rey Mysterio Jr. was a total phenomenon for his time, and just the hardcore and the whole thing. You know, I mean, Paul came in with a totally new product, and TNA, you know, they had no ideas for a new product. They were just trying to copy, you know, what Jerry Jarrett did in the '80s, and copy WWE, and copy this and copy that. But it was all stuff that everybody had seen to death.
Right.
And also, you have to always remember to me that TNA is a vehicle to turn Jeff Jarrett into a superstar. That's a big load. That's a big load they have to carry behind them all the time.
How many years is this going to take?
It will never happen.
It has so far.
No. Come on now.
But the other thing too is ultimately from the TNA standpoint is the nature of television is even different now than it was when ECW first started. When ECW first started, there were not nearly as many television stations that people had access to, so being on television was a lot more valuable. With TNA, they're on television, they have this national outlet, but let's face it, this national outlet doesn't get numbers. I mean, ECW's numbers at the time were considered a flop, and they were 5 times as big as TNA's numbers. And of course, they had a better time slot.
Big money.
And it was never, but ECW was never successful with the numbers that they had. I mean, as far as you know, what Spike TV was hoping for, what ECW itself was hoping for. I know that when ECW started, that they were, you know, before that first show aired, everybody was talking about 2.0, and they averaged 0.9. So, you know, and I know with TNA, I know what they were hoping for 0.3, and they're 0.2. But I mean, it's a terrible time slot.
And they want to go head-to-head if they could, which, truth be told, I think competition would be great for Vince, and I think that that's what made such great wrestling in the late 90s. But I don't think that they could give their product and their presentation, I don't think that they could give any kind of competition, nor do I think ECW really could have given any if they went head-to-head back in the day. I just don't see it happening. Yeah,
what happened was WCW so upped the ante, you know, and changed wrestling from that squash format to, you know, your super spectacular, can't miss thing every Monday night with all the stars. And, you know, we don't have those stars because, I don't know what, you know, we just don't have those stars like we had, you know, the 80s made all those stars. Right. And in the 90s, you know, that he took a lot of Vince's stars. He had a lot of the 80s stars. Hogan, you know, Hogan's name was so big. You know, we don't have anyone like that they can get. I mean, the only ones, there's Austin, there's Rock, and they're not getting either of them.
No, they're done. And the other thing I want to talk to you guys about was where the WWE is going. I think I'm officially quitting on SmackDown, and I agree with you, although the logic is stupid, and I feel bad on Raw, for Benoit and Edge getting kind of buried. I was still really entertained. I did think that the cage match should have overshadowed the Hunter thing, but then again, I wasn't surprised that it didn't,
Yeah.
But where are they going? For the first time, they've got another pay-per-view, a Raw pay-per-view, the month of the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, and also that's going to be in Puerto Rico. So I'm just wondering what your guys' thoughts on that venue and what the programs might be and just kind of where they're at.
I have no clue what matches they're going to do, but the one thing, being Puerto Rico, being the first time, being that they're going to have a sellout, I think atmosphere-wise, it'll be the best atmosphere for a WWE show in a long, long time since probably WrestleMania, or maybe the Backlash in Edmonton, because that had a really good atmosphere too.
As far as I'm concerned, talking about match of the year and stuff, that's far beyond the best pay-per-view I've gotten all year that I can think of. I mean, Backlash and Mania, but I preferred Backlash to Mania. Can you guys think of any other matches or shows that really stand out? And do you see the WWE as a year? Is this being a strong year for good wrestling or not?
First couple of months on Raw was super strong, but it's faded.
Yeah.
I thought first couple of months of the year I thought were very strong, and I think that it got real stale and they never addressed their problems. And so at the end of the year, I would say overall no, overall a bad year. 6 months ago, I would have said surprisingly good. I don't know.
Hey, tell me if I'm stupid, but
we're not stupid, Bryan.
Airing SmackDown in Puerto Rico for 2 months leading up to this pay-per-view.
Yes, they're airing SmackDown for 2 months in Puerto Rico leading up to a Raw pay-per-view, yes.
Is this a Raw pay-per-view?
Yes, it's a Raw pay-per-view.
Okay, I was just checking.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because those fans will just, it's the first WWE show, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like when they went to Monterrey, Mexico last or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, all of their cruiserweights, all of their, Mexican stars are all on the SmackDown brand, yet they always bring the Raw brand to Mexico. But it still works because it's just WWE.
Yeah, right.
And it's still a novelty.
The other guy that was talking about WrestleMania, do you guys see any promise for any programs? I mean, my sense is kind of that Angle might be done, and even at his best now, it's just not so good. And I'm just
well, he's hurt now. I mean, we have to wait till he recovers. I've been talking about it for a while. I don't know that Angle will ever be as good as he was a year ago. I just don't know that we're going to see that. I think that he's hurt a lot worse than people are letting on.
Anyways, thank you for your time, guys.
Okay, we will be back with more right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. Dave Meltzer, editor of Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly and Bruce Mitchell of the Pro Wrestling Torch. We got one line available at 1-800-878-PLAY, so if you want to talk to us in the second hour, you can hop on board that, Bruce. What's your thoughts as far as good year, bad year, and different year for this year?
I think this has been a bad year. I think that the chickens are coming home to roost a lot. You basically don't have any stars in WWE, and it's run by who's got the political pull and who wants to be who's got the pull to keep themselves a star, not who the fans are really wanting or demanding. And the Randy Orton thing, which I just think was a real key for this year, just doesn't seem to be taking hold yet. I mean, he's young, and we'll see, but that's what they were banking on, and I don't see it working out that well. House show business is down. Pay-per-view business is really down, and, last week's financials, I think, eye-opening for a lot of people. TNA just has never gotten going, and I think the one, success story, and it's not a huge success, but they did survive the Rob Feinstein scandal, it seemed to, is Ring of Honor. I just don't think it's a very good year, not at least domestically.
Yeah. Bryan, any thoughts about that?
I can't argue any of that.
Yeah. You guys, as far as a year from now, what do you see?
I don't see anything out there that could be brought in, any changes that could be made that would really get people excited again. I don't see the old stars that you could jumpstart things with, and I don't see anybody on the horizon that fits, and I don't know that I see that WWE, I mean, the Daniel Puder thing was really demoralizing to me in certain ways, because I don't know that they want success. WWE wants success, except on their own terms. And, and and that's not a good way to run your business. I don't know. I mean, I just don't know where it's coming from. Where the next big spark's coming from, and I don't know if we're going to have one. I think if you can accept Raw for what it is, the Triple H show, maybe it'll be enjoyable. But if you can't, I don't know. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I wonder what happens if. I think one of the big questions for early next year is if TNA does not make it, who WWE, if anyone, tries to get. And I think that it won't be the people that the fans enjoy the most. I think the real, the one guy who's been made into the biggest star possible that TNA has done at this point would be AJ Styles, and I'm really curious to see how they would react to him because he does not fit their criteria of what they want a wrestler to be.
The one I think they would take is Abyss.
Abyss and Monty Brown, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, we will be back with more right after the news break. You can call us at 1-800-878-PLAY. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of the Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on.
Okay, welcome to the second hour here on Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez, Figure 4 Weekly, Bruce Mitchell of Pro Wrestling Torch. We're talking about the current scene in pro wrestling as we do on Sirius Channel 122 and Sports Byline Radio Network every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. And we are going to go to Ed in San Antonio. Ed, what's going on? Oh, that's Tony. I'm sorry, I punched the wrong button. Tony in West L.A. Tony, what's going on?
How you doing, man?
Doing really good.
Happy Thanksgiving. I just have a couple questions.
Okay.
Basically, I heard, Bret Hart got married, and within the things that went on, Ric Flair and stuff, and I feel the rivalry, what chance is there that Bret Hart might actually, return, that might see, his DVD set come out?
Bret Hart DVD looks very unlikely. Bret Hart got married in September. And anything you want to know about Bret? I know more about Bret Hart and Ric Flair than I care to know, so if you want to know anything, I'll let you know. Are you interested in anything in particular?
Does Bret Hart actually believe the stuff he says?
I don't know.
Is it just retaliation for
It is retaliation for sure for what Ric Flair said. I think that Ric Flair probably believes what he said, and I think that Bret by this point has probably convinced himself that I think he's convinced himself he believes what he said too. I think it's really sad on both parts. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, it's just. Well, I don't know. Bruce, what's your thoughts on all that? I mean, the guy who shut up first is the guy who's going to win, and both of them don't realize it. I mean, just, when Ric Flair goes back to Canada and, starts doing interviews, it'll be, you know what I'm saying?
Ric Flair, you also have to, I'm sure he believes what he's saying, but he's also doing it for a very specific small audience that hates Bret Hart. In other words, Triple H and, some of the other...
Shawn Michaels and Vince McMahon, and that's it.
Who are egging him on, and, Ric Flair has many positives and some negatives, and one of the negatives is he can be kind of shallow, and so I definitely see that part. And then Bret at his best is self-absorbed sometimes, and, he wants respect back and forth, and he thought he had it from Flair, and now he thinks he doesn't, and, he doesn't like that. So it's a bad situation for both of them, and I think politics is behind a lot of it.
I think it's sad. I think it's a sad situation on both sides, just how it turned out, especially because I know from both of them at different points what they would have said about the other is very, very different than they're saying now in both cases, and that's why it's hard for me to take seriously what they say, even though I think that they're both at this point convinced of what they say.
Yeah, I think it's really sad as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of off the record, I heard they're replacing Randy Orton with Triple H. Is there a reason for that?
I don't know. It was a decision made by WWE to switch. I don't know if they're going to have Randy Orton on later, or Triple H just wanted to do the show because Blade Trinity's coming out, and he just thought it was a good time, you know. So, but yeah, they switched that just the last couple of days.
Okay, thanks a lot, Dave. Actually, I have one more thing. This is actually talking about Ebersol.
Yes.
About 20 minutes ago, I just had an AP report, and, like, unfortunately, I think he was in a plane crash.
Yeah, he was in a plane crash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we will be back with more right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly and Bruce Mitchell of the Pro Wrestling Torch. We have one line available at 1-800-878-PLAY, so you can jump on board, and we will start getting to calls right now. Now we're for real going to Ed in San Antonio. Ed, what's going on?
Hey guys, what I want to talk about is I got a chance to get the ECW DVD.
You're ahead of me. I still haven't watched it.
Yeah, I think it's even better than the Benoit and Eddie Guerrero. I mean, it was the shortest 3 hours that I spent. I mean, I didn't want it to end. But my question that I have from there is regarding the night that Shane Douglas won the NWA World Title and threw it down. Watching that, it seems like it was like the ECW building and ECW crowd, ECW Joey Styles doing the announcing. How did Paulie set that up so perfectly for it to be pulled off like that?
Well, you know, one of the things, he was the guy that had television of those NWA promoters, and he had the cult product that they wanted to be associated with, even while they hated his guts. The late Dennis Carluzza hated Paul Heyman,
and vice versa,
and they hated each other, but still he was willing to crawl into bed with ECW and trust them to have the finals of that tournament. And to this day, that one little part, I did get the ECW video, and I was really happy to see that they put in Dennis complaining, which was a shoot about what happened. You know, about
Wait, did they do the TV? Did they put in the TV interview that he did later?
Yeah, they put that in.
Okay, that TV interview was scripted by Paulie for Dennis to say.
Right, and he said it, and he was mad as hell. I mean, and he really was mad.
Yeah, but that was Paulie. That was Paulie's scripting. Dennis didn't say that on his own.
Oh, okay. But yeah. I'll stand by. He was really mad.
Oh, he was, because he was double crossed. But Paulie said it's a part of a bigger angle, even though it really wasn't part of a bigger angle. Right. I told him, now you do this interview and you say this, and it was Dennis's blow off. But Dennis thought it was the start of a bigger angle. The funny thing is that the big fight leading up to that that tournament was that Dennis wanted Chris Benoit, who was his guy, to win, and they wanted Shane Douglas to win. And it was a big, big fight because neither would back down, and at the end...
Chris Candido.
Chris Benoit, not Chris Candido. No, Chris Benoit ended up jumping from Dennis to Paulie later because Paulie poisoned Benoit against Dennis.
Right.
And Benoit ended up turning on Dennis, so to speak. But Dennis was 100% for Benoit, who was not Paulie's guy at the time, to win the NWA tournament and be the NWA champion. And the whole thing was Paulie told Dennis that if Shane wins, then he will immediately drop it to Benoit. And Dennis, I mean, there's even more to the story. There's a guy who's now a sportscaster in Philadelphia who ended up, for whatever reason, he knew Paulie's plan. And told, I think he told Dennis. I mean, because he told me he told Dennis. This is after the fact. This is well after the fact yes, he had told me that he had told Dennis, and whether Dennis believed it or I don't know what the story was. I mean, it was a funny situation going in, but Carluzza was not unaware of something, but I don't know exactly what. And he was certainly suspicious, but Paulie was so good at charming him, or whatever the deal was, it went perfectly for Paulie. It went 100% perfect for Paulie, and it easily couldn't have. There's easily ways it wouldn't have. Although once it's on their show, it's pretty much going to go the way they want it because they were running the show, and Paulie knew exactly what he wanted to do. It went perfect for him. So anyway, anything else about that, Ed?
Yeah, well, actually, just a question about ECW. Since they had such success with this DVD, are there any chances that they're going to start releasing best of ECW, the Tommy Dreamer Raven best of feud from ECW or stuff like that? Is there any?
I think down the road, probably. I don't see any time soon. I mean, I think that, if this, DVD does well, a year from now, they'll probably try to do another one. I'm sure they'll try to do something.
Yeah, one of the things I thought watching it was, you had the documentary, and the documentary was fascinating and obviously would appeal to, ECW fans and all the people that are buying it. But there was a lot of highlights of matches and of interviews and all that kind of thing, and, angles and all that stuff that they really could have thrown in that would make a whole other DVD or a whole other, 2 or 3. I'm not sure Tommy Dreamer and Raven, would make a good this DVD. I don't know if there's enough.
I don't know if that's marketable enough today.
But I do think that a best of ECW that wasn't the documentary that was just the best of ECW. There was a lot more they could have put in.
Anything else, Ed?
Yeah, Dave, you mentioned on your notes that today that you're reading the Harley Race book. Did you get to the part about him losing the title to Bobby yet?
No, I haven't gotten to that one yet. No, I got to the point where he had, I think I got to the point where he had just beaten Terry Funk for the title for the second time. Okay, I
remember a couple weeks ago I brought up the point that, about it, and you kind of had a totally different version of what he was saying. I was just thinking what your opinion was, but I guess you haven't got to it yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for taking my call, guys.
Okay, you're very welcome. Let's go to Chris in Vancouver. Chris, what's going on?
Hi, guys. How's it going?
Going really good.
Good to hear. I have a couple of comments and questions. First off, the WWE 24/7 on-demand service, I don't know if it's available here in Canada. I don't think it is yet.
It's not yet. Know that.
Yeah. What's the plan of that? Is it going to go on satellite, like on Bell Express View, or in the U.S., like Dish Network, DirecTV?
That's the plan, if they can get on, yeah.
Okay. So right now it is available? I went to the website. It says it's available through digital cable.
I don't know that it's available through. As far as I know, it's only available on one system in Pennsylvania, and that's it. And there's 21 systems in the country, in the United States, that have agreed to start when they do the big launch, which they have not determined a date when they're going to do the big launch, because they want more. They want more than just 21 systems when they make the move. So right now, it's the clearing of the systems is the holdup right now.
Okay. And my second question is, back in the 80s, I didn't get so much exposure to the NWA in Vancouver because it was mainly a WWE, WWF territory. And but we did get an hour show out of Seattle, Washington called NWA Worldwide, I believe, right? That was the name of the 1 hour show they had, syndicated?
Brian, you know this.
I knew someone was going to ask me. I don't know.
CW? Are you from Seattle?
I am, but I didn't really get into it back then.
Yeah, but I don't remember much of it.
I mean, the only Seattle wrestling I remember the big time wrestling, I think is what it was called, that Dutch Savage and Don Owen did. This would have been this is the 70s more than the 80s. I mean, I'm sure it ran in they were still. I've got to think they were still running Seattle by the early 80s though.
Right. But my question was, Magnum TA, I was talking to some people just a couple of days ago, and they were saying that before his car accident, there was big plans for him to be like the Hulk Hogan of the NWA. Can you comment on that?
Not the Hulk Hogan, but he certainly would have had a chance to be the NWA champion. Dusty Rhodes was certainly grooming him for that. My feeling is that he would have been, how to say this? Not quite as big as Sting. If he had, if things would have happened, and probably when Dusty was replaced as Booker, so this would be late 88, early 89, that he probably would have fallen out of favor politically when Sting and Luger became the fair-haired boys, and he probably would have gone to WWF and probably been very disappointing there. But you just don't know. He might have been. I might have that wrong. I don't know. Bruce, saw Magnum. Bruce, what's your thoughts? If Magnum had not been in the car accident, how does wrestling change? How does his career go?
He was definitely being groomed for that by Dusty Rhodes. Dusty was his best friend and mentor and father figure and all that stuff. They pushed him. I always thought they pushed him like one level higher than he really was.
But they did a great. I got to say, they did a great job with him, though.
Yeah, they did. But I mean, even just as a fan back then. Watching those guys, I just never thought he was like the very top. I mean, even though they pushed him on his way to the very top, and he had that thing with the women at that point. He was a hot guy, but I don't know that he had. There was something kind of cheesy about him. I mean, he was getting a push based on his resemblance to Tom Selleck and Magnum PI and all that stuff. That part of it, and it just. I don't know. I mean, I kind of agree with you. I mean, I saw him as kind of a Sting where the next time, if he'd gotten that title, I don't know how long he would have been able to keep it and, would have been a Dusty Rhodes type superstar because Dusty was looking, make him make the next version of himself, and that was going to be tough.
The one thing Magnum has, Magnum could talk.
Yeah, Magnum could talk.
You know, which is the one thing that probably killed Sting. I don't say killed Sting, but he
was a good talker. I never thought he was a great talker. I mean, he was a good bay-faced talker.
Yeah, but the one thing that I do remember is if you would go outside the territory when Crockett Promotions went outside the territory, which I would see them in many other places outside, and go to the house shows. That Flair and Dusty Rhodes were superstars, and the Rock and Roll Express and Midnight Express were superstars, and Magnum was not the superstar outside the territory that those other guys were, even though he was pushed right at the level with Flair and Dusty and ahead of Midnight Rock and Roll. It seemed like Midnight Rock and Roll had better matches, and just because the Rock and Roll were so over and Cornette was such a great performer, they got over better in those new cities than Magnum and Nikita Koloff did.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Okay, you're very welcome. Okay, 1-800-878-PLAY. We've got a couple of lines available. We'll be back with more right after this. Listen to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez, Figure 4 Weekly, and we're here with Bruce Mitchell of the Pro Wrestling Torch as well. Looking for the latest in wrestling information, you can go to www.wrestlingobserver.com, and there's info on... There's daily updates, TV reviews, as well as information on how to get both the Observer that I put out every week and Figure 4 that Bryan puts out every week. And we got a huge story this week on TNA, where it stands, its future, its current situation, plus WWE financials, exactly what's being made, what is being hidden, and just kind of the attitude at the conference call, and Vince McMahon, and that very controversial dividend that Vince McMahon doubled the dividend while profits were down, which should have raised probably more eyes than it really did raise, Bruce.
You know, I think so, but I think the people that, I don't know, I just can't imagine people buying WWE stock right now that are looking for, you know, just as an investment. I think they've got, you know, they want to be in the wrestling business, or they want to, you know, they want to be involved with WWE. They're not looking to just make a profit, so, or they're looking at something else besides making a profit. So, I don't know. I mean,
that being said, as a company itself, it still was a profitable quarter, as bad as a lot of the business was.
And you know, it's worth saying that they run their business, you know, as a business. I mean, they definitely are trying to. You know, they definitely are trying to preserve their profit margin for as long as they can. But the problem is you've got to pour some more revenue stream into it.
I don't know if there's going to be any... Well, you know, new revenue stream might be new technology, and that may be what saves the business.
I mean, it could be, but I'm even just talking about the ones that they have that they need to improve. You know, they need to improve those ones. There's only so far you can cut in a business before there's nothing left to cut.
Oh yeah, and I wonder if we're getting close to that now. Well, they can always cut back to one brand.
But there's still those two big TV shows.
Well, you fill the TV shows, and you just, you know, I mean, it's a problem, because then those guys get, the guys, if you do cut to one brand, then the overexposure gets real fast.
I almost worry about cutting to one
I think
brand.
damn if they do and damn if they don't.
Brian.
I almost worry about cutting to one brand because, you know, I almost see it like if they cut to one brand, they're going to have to do some sort of angle with this. And I just see it being a total bust and making even more people lose interest.
Okay, now here is a question. Keeping two brands, which, I mean, I would not go to one brand, although I might, like I said before, I could see going to one brand, but only having the guys on TV once a week, and then, switching programs a lot more and opening it up to where more people could wrestle more people just because of the staleness, or keeping the two brands and switching more main eventers to different sides, so the staleness that is there now wouldn't be there, neither of which they've done.
Not even that, but just switching anybody and making them a main eventer when they switch.
Yeah, well,
because when they switch, theoretically, they're brand new, and you could turn anyone into a main eventer if you tried. Not anybody.
They try. I mean, I would say that they've had a start and stop and start mentality with like Shelton Benjamin.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when he switched over, I mean, the first thing they did, I mean, Triple H, put him over in a great match, and then they forgot about it, and then he got hurt, then he came back, then they sort of forgot about him. Now they're going with him again.
But the point is, if done correctly, it would work.
I think so.
But that's the strength of having two brands, but they don't take advantage of it, so it makes me wonder, I never understood, I never saw the point of two brands being that they can run 2 tours? Because to me, it's always you can always run 2 tours.
You could always exactly.
It has nothing to do with brands.
Yeah, because they ran 4 tours with one brand in the 80s.
Yeah, and I always laugh. They're like, well, we have 2 brands, and we can run 2 tours. And I was like, you can't run 2 tours with one brand?
Yeah.
So that's not the main thing. The main thing is what you use those brands the way you would use WWE and WCW when they were separate organizations. There was a reason that war worked, and they've really done nothing to try and recreate anything in that war with these 2 brands, which is what I thought they were doing it for.
Yeah. Now, as far as in hindsight, the people who were cut, who would you guys say would be the mistakes, and who would you agree with? Bruce, go first.
I wouldn't have cut Gail Kim. I mean, I just think she was used, in a wrong way. Believe it or not, I would have kept A-Train. I mean, if you're going to have big, tall guys, he works better than all the big, tall guys that they've got, and no one's seen him in a while, so maybe they could do something else with him. I mean, he's better than Heidenreich. He's better than some of those guys.
I think he's less colorful than Heidenreich, though.
Yeah, he probably is.
Yeah. But, oh, my God, that's the other thing is like, the one thing that I got to say as far as Heidenreich goes is you got to give them credit on the booking for him. They've done a great job, except for on the last pay-per-view, of not exposing Heidenreich. Compare that to when they brought in Scott Steiner and they made every mistake in the book with him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're back to hiding guys, which I'm glad they are.
Yeah. Well, the ones that need to be hidden.
The ones that need to be hidden.
Heidenreich's first match wasn't with Hunter.
Hunter's not that dumb.
Yeah, well, but then Heidenreich's pay-per-view big first pay-per-view match was with Undertaker.
Think about this. How many people saw that match compared to how many people watch SmackDown on a weekly basis?
Yeah. How many people watch that compared to that Royal Rumble where Hunter wrestled Scott Steiner?
Yeah.
There's a big difference there, too.
The main person I would have cut was Rico, just because, if nothing else, he's a guy that always entertains people on house shows. And right now they need everything that they can get to entertain people at house shows. But I really don't see anybody as being like a huge mistake, because I think they could have cut 75% of the roster and few people would have known these guys gone.
Okay, what about the idea of 12 pay-per-views a year, but every pay-per-view being dual brand? Agree or disagree?
You mean both brands together?
Yeah.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think. I haven't given it a... Well, the one that's coming up with SmackDown has no star power whatsoever. The Raw one barely has any, so at that point, I take it back. But at that point, maybe they need to do both of them together.
Brian, your thoughts?
At this point, you may as well. There was a time where I would have, there was a time when I hated the idea of even like the Big Four being co-events, because I thought in order for this thing to ever work, they need to differentiate the brands as much as possible.
But they've blown that one years ago.
Yeah. So with that dead, I don't see why not. Although that does kind of kill one of the other deals, which is if the whole idea of the split brands is to try and give more people a chance, that right there is kind of killing that off, because all of a sudden you got, however many 4 less slots on a pay-per-view for the SmackDown guys than they would have gotten before.
Okay, but having said that, who has become a star because of the split brands that wouldn't have become a star anyway? There's no one.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. Let's go to Alan in Deerfield Beach. Alan, what's going on?
Hey, Dave, how's it going, man?
It's going pretty good.
So you're reading the Harley Race book, right?
Yeah, I don't know where I'm at, but maybe third to halfway through.
Okay, because I'm on page 111, and there's some stuff about Dusty Rhodes. It's very limited about Dusty Rhodes. Do you know any of the history between them? Because his characterization, he's not clear on the relationship, really.
I don't know what kind of the relationship really was. They worked in different parts of the country most of their career, except when Harley was champion, and Dusty was the certifiable number one contender in more parts of the country, especially in the Southeast.
Right.
And they would have, drawn very well against each other. So I think that, Dusty beat Harley for the title in 81, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And had the short Florida run, I think, in 79.
Right.
So, they worked together a lot. Harley carried Dusty in a lot of matches, obviously.
Okay, because there is a story about an earring and pulling the string out of Dusty's ear. Is that a true story?
I've heard Dusty Rhodes tell that story.
Is that true, though?
I've heard Dusty Rhodes tell that story. I watched him tell that story on a DVD about a year ago, one of those Florida DVDs I got for a cheap price. And it's a funny story, and it was so wild I kind of assumed it was true. That Dusty came to the ring and thought he was going to be real cool and had an earring before... way before men wore earrings.
Dusty, I will say this. I remember Dusty in the 70s wearing an earring before anyone else did.
Right.
Okay, so that much is true.
And basically Harley took one look at it and did what someone would do in a fight back then, which was he pulled the earring out of his ear the hard way.
I can believe that. I can believe that.
Yeah.
Just the mentality and the way the business was then, and Harley being Harley.
Okay.
Is that the story Harley told?
Yeah, that's the story. But I'm saying they weren't always close. Is that what you know?
I don't. You would have to ask them. I mean, they were not in the same territory as much as you would think, other than when Harley was world champion or some other times. You know, Harley did work Florida for a while. You know, I mean, they had periods. I mean, they probably worked against each other, 100 times or more. You know, probably more than 100 times. But it wasn't. I never heard of them being buddies. But I don't know. I mean, I think that they would have probably respected each other greatly. Certainly, Dusty had to respect Harley because everyone respected Harley.
Right.
And also
had to work with him.
And Harley got good matches out of Dusty. And I think that Harley had to respect Dusty in the sense of when Harley was champion. I think that by and large, the guy he probably drew more money with, given that time period, was probably Dusty. So,
Dave, I want to add a story in here too. I do know right before Harley went to WWF as the King and all that stuff, that Dusty brought him in to Crockett to put over Magnum TA. We were talking about Magnum TA, and Harley did not like that idea.
Really?
And didn't really cooperate very well with it. So I think that was the last time there was. That was the last time that Harley worked for Dusty that I know of.
He might have worked for him later when Dusty booked. I don't know the time frame, but remember when Harley would have managed Vader?
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That would have counted too.
Okay. Now I do know that Harley in St. Louis, because we looked up the records.
Right.
When Harley ran St. Louis, Harley never jobbed in St. Louis, and one of these people said that killed the Missouri title was when it was time for Harley to lose the title to Kerry Von Erich, to set up Kerry Von Erich challenging Ric Flair, that Harley only do a DQ loss, and that the only guy, when Harley, after he had lost the title to Flair in 81, the only guy that Harley would agree to do a job for, which he did in St. Louis, and someone could look up and maybe find another one, but the way I heard the story was that the only guy he would job for was Baba, and that the people in St. Louis were going like, oh, that's not Harley doing a job. That's to elevate someone. That's Harley, kissing up to his Japanese boss that pays him, a lot of money.
Right.
Well, not to dwell on it too long, but you talk about Kerry Von Erich and Harley Race. There's no stories in the book about their matches, none whatsoever.
They had a hell of a match, and it was due to Harley at Texas Stadium in I'm thinking 1982.
I know we respected Fritz Von Erich, but I mean, there's no stories in the book. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that there's a lot left out of the book. I mean,
it's 178 or some pages. Harley. I mean, to me, Harley was around for 40 years and a star almost that entire period, or 30 years as a wrestler, and been around and a legend after he stopped wrestling. I certainly thought there could have been, it was definitely too short, I would say.
I wanted to ask you about Bob Holly, too, if you can hold on.
Okay, hold on, and we can do Bob Holly. And also, you can call us at 1-800-878-PLAY. We'll be back right after this. Listen to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Radio Network.
That reminds me of...
Hey, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly and Bruce Mitchell, and we were going to talk with Alan about Bob Holly.
Yeah, about Bob Holly. Being the work nature of the business, let me ask you, can Rene Dupree, legally press charges, criminal charges, or anything? Really?
He could try. I think that the nature of the business is such that it wouldn't go very far because... I mean, Eric Koulis, now granted Eric Koulis did a lot of lying on the stand, which killed himself, but Eric Koulis had a lot stronger case by far than Rene Dupree would have had, and it didn't go anywhere. And also the other difference is that if Rene Dupree were to do that, that would be it for him in WWF and possibly for his wrestling career, because there is no wrestling other than WWF for him. So the idea is, even if he could, he won't.
Right. So he'd be blackballed, basically, right?
Blackballed isn't the word, but he would have to. When there's only one place and they don't want you, it's blackballing isn't the word. It's just they don't want you. You know what I mean?
But I mean, if wrestlers in certain matches abuse each other to the point of deviating from the plan, I mean, isn't that a criminal action or no? What's I'm asking?
I think legally, as a matter of, I'm not a lawyer, but it seems to be as a matter of law. What we think happened, I would say They were putting on a show, and all of a sudden the guy assaulted him. I mean,
but nobody has ever been prosecuted.
Has that happened?
Did it work? No, but did it happen? Yeah, and I think they understood it.
Does it happen? Has it happened? Previously over the years, or no?
Oh yeah. Things like this have happened. People have lost their temper, and the New Jack thing there, and the New Jack thing just a couple of weeks ago was another example of it.
Did you say Scott Steiner and Bagwell got into it once, or no?
I don't remember.
You told me in the. It was in the Observer once. I don't know.
I think there was a Steiner Bagwell and there was a Steiner DDP and
Steiner DDP was backstage though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about in the ring?
Yeah.
I remember the Steiners at a pay-per-view.
Oh, with Fujinami Iizuka, but that was different than this.
Right.
Think about Rick Steiner at the end of WCW.
Than assaulting them.
That's true. Rick Steiner with Conan at the end of WCW and with what was it, Lash LaRue, and wasn't there 3 guys that he did it to?
Yeah, Lash LaRue. I can't remember the last guy.
Yeah, the last couple of weeks of WCW. But even then, that was different. He was roughing them up and potatoing them, but this was a lot more violent than those. Right. That was more of a stretching and kind of like he didn't go out to maim Conan. Right. He didn't go out to blacken his eye. He came to he didn't work with him. He wasn't working with him.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
It's a different thing.
Okay, so sometimes even if they shoot, they can get away with it. Because it's not a regulated business. Is that why, or what?
I don't know that having a commission would. Well, you know what? Having a commission, I could see a commission possibly suspending someone for doing something like that. And New York has a commission.
The commission knew the sport they were knew the genre they were regulating. Yeah, I could definitely see it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We're going to go to James in Tallahassee because he seems to have an answer for this. James, what's going on?
Hey there. Figure you'd like to hear from a law student. Even though I'm not a lawyer, I'm still a law student, and getting ready for finals maybe can help you out with this question, at least in regards to the tortious nature of we could say battery or alleged battery.
Yeah.
Basically, when you're in pro wrestling, you're to a certain extent consenting yourself to get battered. Basically, there's going to be contact, even though technically it's weird because it's not like boxing where everything's real, where every punch is going at you really hard. And that was the example we did in our torts class. Where if you're a boxer and you're in a fight and you get beat up bad, you consented to that fight, meaning that you won't have.
They will never. Is it the same thing in hockey? There's never been. Well, you know what though? There was the prosecution in Canada when the guy Marty McSorley, right?
Right.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, Marty McSorley hit a guy with a stick, I think, several years ago, and he was prosecuted. I don't remember. I think he was found guilty, too.
Well, and that's also Canadian law, so remember, 2 separate systems. But with that being said, if a guy has, brass knucks on his glove and hits you with it, which it wouldn't be, you know what I'm saying? If he does something illegal along those lines, you're not consenting to that. So, in theory, he could always take it to the judge or to a jury on this theory that, hey, even though I'm in a sport where I'm getting battered and bruised and I'm expecting this, I'm not expecting a real-life shot that really, really hurts me to the extent Bob Holly did, to the point where it's recklessness. That's how you could try to get around it. Now,
but this wasn't.
You see, what if you were doing a movie and you were doing a fight scene in a movie, and one guy all of a sudden, instead of doing the stunt the way it was, the fight the way it was planned, just beat the hell out of the other guy.
Just out of anger.
The guy ran away.
Just out of anger. Okay, then you can get to an intentional tort, saying, hey, that this is an intentional tort. He intended to hurt me.
But that's what Bob Holly did.
Then he actually has a case, believe me.
I would never say a case where
he has something.
where you're throwing a punch and you accidentally give the guy a black eye, like what Maven did with Snitsky. That clearly is not. That's clearly just what stuff that happens in pro wrestling. But what Bob Holly did was a totally different thing.
Yeah, I didn't know what happened. So Bob Holly just beat up on Rene Dupree?
He punched him in the eye because he was mad because of he thought that Rene Dupree had done some really stupid things, and he was trying to teach him a lesson.
That's battery.
Oh, that's
God, yeah.
Yeah, but one, it would take the guy to press charges, which he's not going to do, and number 2, it would take a conviction, and there's never been one recently that I'm aware of. Even the New Jack case, which was probably far more flagrant than Bob Holly, based on, I have not seen a tape of the New Jack thing.
Dave, it's 2 different questions of, as a legal definition, is it battery, and could you prosecute it successfully?
Yeah, there's two things, a civil suit or a criminal thing, either one of those. And in regards to the criminal, it would also depend on what the statute of the state where the action occurred in would say, too. Not just the common law. But honestly, when you get in the heat of the moment and you're exciting, judges and judges will take that into account. Juries will take that into account. And they probably, probably if it was in the heat of the moment, meaning he messed up on a move and the guy goes nuts, that's something to be taken into account and brought to the jury on behalf of.
But I'm sure that Bob Holly would claim that whether it's true or not.
Yeah, well,
that would be the defense.
That's a different thing.
Yeah.
That's could they get out with a culture pro wrestling? Could he get out of it? I'm sure he could.
Yeah. I think
just figured it
legally by definition battery. Yeah.
I figured I'd chime in to help me for my final exams this week, so I'll take it a break. But hey, you guys take care and have a great show, all right?
Okay, thanks a bunch, James. We're going to go to Jamal. We're going to go to Jamal in Toronto. Jamal, what's going on?
Hi. I just wanted to talk about the current state of wrestling and how there's not really anything to look forward to that could kind of change the course we're going. So do you think it could kind of die off the way we see it now with the television weekly and the pay-per-views every month?
Die off? I mean, of course it's...
Maybe go back to how it was before?
It depends on what you mean by before. If you mean like in the 70s, it'll never be like it was in the 70s. Never happened. It was a time. It was a cultural time that will never be repeated. It was a totally different television world. It was a totally different sports world. We're never going to go back to that. I could see years from now if WWE would fall, that our wrestling would be like the local British wrestling, that it would always be around, but just never be that big of a thing, and TV kind of shunning it. And that would be very, it'll exist, but no one will be making money, and the guys, everyone will be guys, that they have regular jobs, but they go and wrestle on weekends and, make some, $25, something like that, or $50, or even $100. That could happen, although we're years and years away from it. I mean, the whole key is the TV, and if and when WWE loses the TV, that the gig is up. But I don't see that happening. I mean, it's not going to happen for a couple of years, and they got a lot of time and a lot of money to withstand, the ability to come up with someone or something, turn it around.
But that WWF thing goes bad.
What do you mean, the movie thing?
No, the Wildlife Fund.
Well, that'll cut in their money, but that won't hurt their TV. That will speed up their losing their TV. But you're right, they could lose a lot of money, and that could cut in their war chest a lot.
Yeah.
My feeling is that what scares me the most, and this is examples from this year and a little bit from the other years, is that even if something were to come along, I think that they would not see it and they would not take advantage of it, because I've seen too many of that, and that's the scary part. Because I think that you've got people who, the people who are making decisions based on no knowledge of the history of the business. In the sense of, just as an example, if when JYD, I'm just going to throw out a name, came along, and he was a phenomenon, and Bill Watts figured out, oh my God, this guy's got charisma and blah blah blah, and he can't work a lick, so we're going to put Paul Orndorff with him, and we're going to put Teddy DiBiase with him, and they're going to lose to him in 3 minutes, and people are going to think he's a world beater. If something like that were to happen now, the big thing is that guy can't work. We won't let him get past the first match. And that's like totally ignorant of the history of this business, and the kind of guys, including Hulk Hogan, that have drawn money have not always, and often not even, Dusty Rhodes, have often not even been good workers. And, I just see that the inability to see the big picture just pisses me to no end. That's all I got to say. Anything else, Jamal?
Yeah, excuse me, speaking of, athletics, do you ever think WWF will go back to just strict, pure wrestling? Because when they do that, every once in a while they have one, really good athletic wrestling match on a pay-per-view, the crowd seems to be pretty into it. When Angle and Benoit get together, even if the storyline is weak, they still have respect for that. Do you think WWF will go back to that? And maybe do you think that could attract attention, maybe even get a little bit of a rating?
I think they want to do it on pay-per-view, but they just have, done the same matches to death. I don't think that by itself is going to be what turns it around. It's going to be a charismatic guy. Good matches are better than bad matches, but you could have, good matches all the time aren't going to turn the business around, because that's only the hardcore fans really appreciate, the idea of a great work match. Okay? All right, we will be back with more right after this. We're Observer live on the Sports Byline Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez, the Figure 4 Weekly, and Bruce Mitchell, the Pro Wrestling Torch. We only got a couple minutes left. We're going to go to Greg in Providence. Greg, what's going on?
Hey, Dave, I'll make it quick. I did get the ECW DVD. I strongly recommend it to anybody who's even remotely interested or was remotely interested in that organization. It's a great 3-hour documentary, and they pick at least a couple good matches in their entirety that they show in. I myself watched more of the DVDs than I actually watched the television programs with WWE, and I'm definitely giving this a thumbs up. The question I wanted to ask you was probably the biggest topic of the DVD between Vince, Heyman, and Bischoff was why the company went under. They made it seem as if it really never was making a ton of money, and that they were always really, really tight with paying the wrestlers. And my question to you is who's right? Heyman said they went out because the television deal they got was terrible. TNN wouldn't advertise. Vince said they went out of business because the product wasn't appealing to, or Heyman had to change it to make it more appealing. And Bischoff said it was just a regional thing that was never going to get past the East Coast. In your opinion, what was the main reason it did go down?
I don't know if I would agree with any of them. The main reason was it wasn't as popular as it needed to be, given the costs of having to keep the talent from going to the big organizations that desperately needed new talent constantly and were picking ECW apart. When ECW couldn't maintain its talent, it was doomed, basically, because you can't survive and pay guys 6 figures as a minor league feeder system. It could have only stayed very small. By trying to make it big and compete, he didn't have the financial resources to compete, and he didn't have it didn't generate enough money to make money, basically. I mean, is the short version.
Okay, real quick, do you think there's any chance Vince will ever do anything with giving an hour to Heyman? Dan Whalers mentioned it in an article this week and is on your website. Is there any chance he'll ever resurrect it?
I can't say never for sure, but I would seriously doubt it for a lot of reasons. I mean, basic just as they don't have enough talent for 2 brands, how do you expect them to try to do 3? You know, I mean, and then what do you do with it? You know, I mean, do you put it on pay-per-view and have weaker pay-per-view numbers than you already have? So, I mean, I could see an ECW invasion working, but as a separate ECW 1-hour show produced by Heyman, I just don't think this is the time for it. Anyway, we got to go. We'll see everybody next week.